Welcome to the Write Good Books podcast, the audio companion to WriteGoodBooks.com, with your host Jason Bougger.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jason, joined again by our co-host Scott Michael Childers. What say you, Scott?
I say, begin the podcast.
Begin the podcast and play the Supertramp. That's a joke no one will understand.
I don't even get that.
Today we will talk about websites for authors. Do you need a website? And what kind of website is best for you? And we'll go over a couple of the options of types of websites authors should have. And let's start with that. Do you think you need a website if you're an author?
Well, apparently you do, since we planned a whole podcast around it.
Very true.
I mean, it'd be a very short podcast if we just said no.
That's true. So we're both in agreement that you do need a website. Though not everybody will agree. Some people say you can get by on social media. I disagree because, Facebook hasn't, thankfully, taken over the world yet.
Oh,
and
yet.
People are still going to Google your name or just type your name in a URL and see what comes up. So I think you definitely need at least some sort of placeholder. But you need to own a domain with your name if you're a writer.
I would agree. And you never know. Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest and all those are owned by other companies.
Right.
You have no control over if they'll show your content, if they'll remove your account, any of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have your own website and you control the website and the domain name, you have a spot that is yours. They can't, unless you're doing some illegal stuff through there.
Right.
They can't take that away from you.
Right.
You control that. Your publisher can't take that away from you. So it's very important that you have a space on the web that is yours.
Mm-hmm. And we would both recommend using your name if that's available.
Yes.
And like you, for example, there's other Scott Childers out there. So
Right. So I use my full name, and I do that even in my writing,
right.
Scott Michael Childers, because Scott Childers is a radio DJ out of Chicago who's also written books.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he wrote one on the history of Chicago radio. Check your name, Google it, see who else has the name, what domains are out there. I do, was it Cory Doctorow?
Mm-hmm.
His is based off of one of his first short stories, Crap Hound, right? So there are places where you can get by without using your name, but if at all possible, use your brand, because that's also part of it. It also works well when you put that into your social media accounts.
Yes. And and if you don't want your name to be your URL and you want to use something else, I guess it doesn't hurt to purchase your name and have it redirect to your other site.
Absolutely.
You just don't want to make it as a writer and have someone else go purchase your name.
Yeah.
And then you have to deal with that legal headache.
Or even if someone with your same name purchases it for something else.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Sure.
It's a little competitive.
Mm-hmm. And if, say you are a writer, you don't have a website, somebody else owns your name, has the same name as you, then you can look at other things. You can go yournamebooks.com or whatever. There's options. But try to have it, I think it's good to have it as much to your name and brand as you can. What should be on your website? Stuff.
No, it kind of depends, first of all. How active are you going to be through your website versus social media? I mean, are you going to have a blog or not?
Right.
You've got to make some of those decisions, because depending on those, that will flavor the rest of the site,
right.
In my opinion, anyway.
Will your website be your primary focus on the web, or will it be your social media sites? Will it be a different blog? I think, I'll use myself as an example. I use jasonboger.com as more of a pretty static page that just links to my other projects, it links to my books, at least to write good books, and that's about all I use it for. For promotional, it's still where I tell people to go to find out about me, but more my activity is on my blog.
Yeah. Well, and technically I have a blog that I haven't posted on in over a year now, for reasons.
For shame.
So, but it might be in my best interest to retool my website to be more of a static, here's a list of my publications, here's my bookstore, because I sell my books on my website, or book currently on my website. And so that's what I'm really wanting my website to be. I want it to be my FAQ. If people have questions about who I am as a writer. Can they buy their books from me? Yes, they can, right there. So that's more important to me than a blog.
Yeah. You know what you could do in your case is take the blog part, the blog component, and make it more of a news feed. You have announcements, you put them there.
Yeah.
If you're not in a regularly blog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of options. Let's talk about blogging for a little bit, though, since it came up. You can blog about whatever you want. I don't know. I used to use my jasonbougger.com as a personal blog with a focus on me as a writer. And I'd blog about writing a lot, but I'd also blog about personal stuff. And then I transitioned to writegoodbooks.com and made that strictly about blogging. If you choose to do a personal blog, I'm of the mindset, try to not be too controversial and just try to have a friendly, hey, get to know me. Here's the stuff I'm interested in. I'm a writer. Here's the stuff I write about. Here's the stuff I read. You know, maybe do some movie reviews or talk about pop culture.
Unless your brand is being a controversial figure.
Sure.
In that case,
Then have at it. If you're Ron Jeremy, maybe that's not the best example. But
let's say if you are trying to make it as a political pundit with your books, you're presenting a particular point of view.
Oh, sure. We're not talking about fiction in that case. But,
right. Or maybe you are an author who's using fiction to tell stories about a particular point of view. Then you want to expand on that point of view with your blog.
Sure. Say you write religious fiction, you might...
Yeah, religious fiction, or...
talk about theology. You write political thrillers, you might talk about current political topics. Yeah.
Right. And just, I would suggest that it is somehow relevant to the greater picture that you are trying to paint of yourself as a writer.
I don't like the idea of scaring people away. So I'm all for be active, be political, be whatever you want. Don't be insulting. Be controversial, but not confronting, maybe.
Yeah. And let's talk about blogging and comments. Because there are some writers out there, too. They bring out the band hammer quickly in comments.
Yeah.
And I actually approve of this because, granted, in the U.S., where we're recording this, there's freedom of speech, but that's government. Government they can't, pass laws to limit your freedom of speech. Your website is your website, your domain. If you want to bring out the band hammer in comments, great. If you don't want comments, great. There are other avenues for you to have discussions with people who are interested in your work. Twitter, Facebook, message boards. I personally think comments on a blog these days, it's too much headache with the spammers and trolls and all of that. And like I said, there's other places to have discussions. There's other places to have conversations. So I say, if you're going to have a blog, don't bother with comments.
I'll say it depends on the topic, which will kind of is a good segue into your other type of blog you could do. You could do one just you as a writer and talk about writing. I think if you have that open to comments, you'll get some good discussions. A lot of the blogs I go to have really active comment sections, and it's people throwing around their ideas about writing, and you don't see the bickering you might see on other blogs. So I guess I'll go back to that. If you are an author and want to do a blog about writing, do it.
And it's up to you what you feel comfortable. I'm not going to sit here and tell you have to open up about what happened on your 16th birthday.
Right.
Some of you may not even have had your 16th birthday yet.
Or those of us who may not even remember because it's been so long.
Yeah. But here's, you have to decide what you want to write about. Your first few, if you've never blogged before, your first post, you're going to want to think about, is this going to come back and bite me 10 years from now? Is it going to bite me in the butt next week?
Right.
And if it does bite me, can I handle it? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing if there's some controversy, I guess, but you have to be willing to take that.
Don't go online and complain about your employer.
Yeah, don't do that.
Stuff like that.
Keep it classy.
Keep it classy. I like to say keep it professional, but my idea of professional is different than other people's. So who knows?
Maybe that's why I haven't blogged. I can't think of anything classy or professional to talk
There you
about
go.
in the past.
What do you say? You're professional here every time. We may have already addressed this, but like, should you blog at all on your website? And a lot of people shouldn't. Maybe your author site should just be a list of your books, a list of what you're working on.
An extended dust jacket, basically.
That's a real good way to put it.
Biography,
Resume,
contact, bibliography, both,
and biography. Your about page.
B&B.
What should we not put on our blog? Or on our website? We kind of talked about that, but not really. Don't put anything illegal.
Yeah, that would be a bad idea.
I mean, unless you're writing about illegal things. Don't put anything there that's going to make people want to kill you or put you in jail. That's my...
How about this? Keep your website as on target as your books and your short stories.
Yes.
Tell the story of you on your website, and don't confuse matters by random things that seem out of place.
Yeah. You don't want to go to an author's website and ask yourself, what am I looking at? You don't want to confuse somebody. And make it really easy to find. If you've got published books, if you have anything to sell, make it really easy to get to your books, for the viewer to get to your books to buy them.
Yes, whether it's a link to online bookstores, your own sales mechanism, what have you. But think of your website, no matter what bits and pieces you're choosing to do, is telling the story of you, the author. So don't put anything on there that's going to confuse the matter, that's going to present a story other than what you want to tell, because it's part sales, part marketing, part fodder for Wikipedia if you become that famous.
Yeah, you really need to think about it. It's anyone who has never heard of you, it's the first impression they're going to get of you in most cases.
It could be, yeah.
And we talked a lot about blogging, but there are other things you should put on your website. If you do any speaking tours, put your schedule there. If you've given any speeches, or talks, I think it's good to have a list of talks you've done, so that if anyone's looking for local writers, they can see the type of talks you do. Promote your book signings there.
If you're doing any blog tours.
Oh, yeah.
Or other guest things.
Mm-hmm. If you write short stories that are published online, have links going out to that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you do sell books, you should set up Amazon affiliate links so that you can get a little commission selling your own books that way too. It's, like I said, it's basically your publicity or your personal press offers.
Yeah. And again, it's a thing that you will have control over. And so no matter what Facebook's algorithm is, no matter if Twitter flies the coop and becomes pay per post or some other... I'm starting the rumor now, folks.
Okay, I was
like... It has absolutely no truth. But go ahead and post it out there.
You saw the face I was making.
There's no truth. I just pulled that out of the thin air.
Which is a sort of a... I remember a few years ago, there'd always be people... Oh no, if you don't share this, Facebook will go to subscription only.
It still goes around.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think out of everything we talked about, I think for me the most important part is this is a part of the web that I control. I can add other people. It's harder for them to take it away than just, hey, your Facebook account or your Twitter account or whatever.
Right.
And no matter what happens in those other areas, I always have a home on the web for information about me and my books.
Right. And that's a perfect way to close this podcast, I think. We'll be back next time to talk about hosting services and how to get your website set up if you haven't done so yet. So check us back then. Thanks for listening. And until then, check us out on the web at www.writegoodbooks.com. See ya.